Hey y'all, Buttons here. Thought I'd take a moment to get you up to date on what went on after we touched the sign in Durango and what's been going on since, and answer a few questions that have come up from you and my friends about the hike. So just want to take a moment to do that, and let's start out with what happened after we touched the sign. And the last few days we hiked with a group of people. It was Crystal, a young lady we met just outside of Silverton, and then we connected also with a man that hiked the Appalachian Trail and his son, and another gentleman who ended up being just a great guy. He was just had a servant heart and did just really did some real nice things during the hike. And when we got back, as you can see, we were greeted at the trail with Crystal and this gentleman, and I'm sorry I forgot his name. I'm terrible. That is terrible. I should have wrote the names down. That was one of my takeaways, is write the names down as you get the names in their phone, but I didn't. But he had redid his van, and he's living in his van. He'd left his van at the Durango trailhead, and they greeted us with pizza and drinks, and we celebrated, and it was just really nice, very special, very kind. And like I said, he's just got a servant heart. He did all that on his own, and then he gave us a ride to Durango, which was a good distance away. And we got to Durango. We had not made any kind of resident or place arrangements, a place to stay in Durango. So we found the Durango Inn or Durango Lodge. It's really near the train station in Durango. And we walked in, asked if they had any availability. The lady was very nice, and she said she did, and she actually gave us a special rate. So we stayed there at the Durango Lodge, and we went to dinner that night with the hiker group, like all the guys. Went to the restaurant where they give you the free beer if you want to know that restaurant's name. It's in Gut Hook, and they gave us a free beer. We had a meal there, celebrated again, and it was just a great last day. I don't know how to say it. It was and it was just and hiking with those guys towards the end of the hike was good. Was kind of unique because we had hiked by ourselves mostly during the hike, and we had camped by ourselves, and it just the change was a good change for us to close the hike out. So that was very nice. So the whole end of the hike was super. And as we had with all the other towns, we got in there early, and Scooter was able to change his flight. He was able to move it up a day, and he flew back to Tulsa. And my flight, I decided not to change. I could have, but it would have cost me a considerable amount of money. And I got the flight with miles, and I didn't want to pay just for one day in Durango. It was that amount of money. So I ended up staying an extra day in Durango without Scooter there. And my plan was to go on the train and go to Silverton and experience the train. But the day I had available to do that, it rained really bad, and it was just bad weather, so I just hung out in Durango. So I got back, into Tampa. You saw the pictures at the airport, and came back. And the question that comes up every single time was, "Well, how do you feel?" Well, I feel great. I mean, as I did during the hike, I felt good during the hike. No pain in my legs, hips, knees, feet, nothing. I came back in good shape. I was really, right now, I'm at my ideal weight for my height, and I've maintained that. I haven't gained any weight. Hadn't no hiker bounce back on my weight. And I'm training for a marathon. I run the Disney Marathon. I've done it for 14 years previous, and so this will be my 15th year. It's January 9th, so I'm doing marathon training, which is much different from hiking training. And I've added cross training because when you're on a hike, your lower body is in great shape. Your upper body, the muscles just atrophy. And so I'm doing some cross training to build up my upper body also. So feel great, physically feel great. The second question is that really most people don't ask or wonder is, well, how are you mentally? And I would say, I came back the 1st of September, and I would say the first month, I had kind of like the hiker blues, I call it, or accomplishment blues. And, when you read it, you hear about that from hikers that once they do a hike, they come back into the real world, they say, and they have the blues. And I experienced that. You spend a year getting ready for the hike. You're all geared up for, and we're talking about it all the time. You're on the trail. You're experiencing the trail. You got the highs of going on, and then you come back home, and it's just a natural drop off. And it's compounded some by when I came back, some friends of mine were in the hospital for COVID-related causes, and both of them passed away. One of them was a good friend, the other one was an associate of mine through a ministry that I am in. And so I'm very sad about their loss, and I miss my friend and everything. So that kind of accentuated it. But ask me what I am today. I'm great. I don't stay down long, and I'm feeling great, and continuing down the road, planning my runs and stuff like that. So everything's good. I'm 100%. And so then people ask, well, about the hike. One of the first things they say, well, what was your experience with towns? Which town did you like the best, or which one did you like the least? Well, I can honestly tell you there was no town that I did not enjoy. It could be because when you go off the trail, you just really enjoy being in a town. Now, we missed time to going into towns quite frequently, ended up staying extra days and all those things, but I loved the towns of Colorado. There were great experiences, and we met some great people, had people staying with us that were great, and it was it was just a great experience. The town visits were just fantastic. And but if I was going to rank them, and it's hard to do this because we really enjoyed it, I would say the first town would be that I said I like would be Silverton, and it's easy to say that because the Alma House was just an awesome place to stay. And the people there, the hosts are great. The food was fantastic. The breakfast was fantastic. You just felt pampered. It could be that it was the last town and we were all, your last town, you're all happy because you're almost done with the trail. But also Silverton has a lot of character, and it was a neat place to be. Then on top of that, the travel there into the town and the travel out, the trail angels that did that and the people that picked us up off the road when we hitched were just super nice people. We had great experiences there. So that would be number one, would be Silverton. Number two would be Lake City. Similar to Silverton, except we stayed there a lot longer due to the weather delay. But Lake City, the people that drove us in and out were just awesome. The drivers that did that, both of them, one was we hitched in and he gave us a tour of the place, and then Lake City, the place we stayed at, the Cannibal Cabins, were just super nice. As far as the person that runs them, and the cabins themselves were just perfect for us. And so Lake City, mainly because of the people. I think that's number one, was that Lake City, we liked it because of the people there. The third, which may be a surprise to some people, would be Gunnison. Gunnison's a pretty good distance from the trail, and we had to arrange a ride there. The young man that gave us the ride was just tremendous. He gave us a ride to our place that we were staying, and he also shuttled us back and forth to town every day. And I like Gunnison because in Gunnison we could get everything within walking distance. There was great grocery stores with great resupply. The restaurants were right there, coffee shops, the hiking places were right there. Everything was close by. And just the food was good. I mean, everything in Gunnison was convenient. And we stayed at a golf course community, and we ate at a golf course, and the people there were nice. So that was probably my third favorite. But listen, all the towns, if you do section hikes or hikes of the Colorado Trail, most definitely hit the towns. And you know, when I'm hoping to one day to journey up there by car and retouch all the towns that we stayed in, because it was just such a great experience. The other next question that comes up is gear questions, and anyone knows Scooter and I, we do not do gear reviews, and so I'll try to make this not a gear review. First off, the big three: our tent, our pack, and my sleep system. The tent was my duplex, and it was perfect. I've used it many hikes, and it's a camo tent, and I just love my Z-Packs duplex. The pack I used was the Z-Packs Arc Blast, and I hiked with that many miles, and it was just perfect unless I mispacked it and I had a lump on something, which, you know, I did that a couple of times, and I was too lazy to stop and take it out, and my back suffered for it. But I love my pack. And the third thing was my sleep system, which was new. It was an Enlighten Equipment Convert. The Convert offers you the option of either being a mummy sleeping bag or just a quilt. And I use it as a quilt and as a mummy because the mummy was a little warmer than the quilt, and the quilt allowed me to regulate the temperature easier, and it was 100% great. The sleeping pad I used is the Neo Air X Lite. I've used it on all my hikes, and it did great. I don't have problems sleeping. I'm one of those guys that can say, "Hey, I'm going to go to sleep," and I get knocked out. I'm out in a minute. So it drives Scooter crazy. It drives a lot of people crazy. My wife crazy, because I'll just say I'm going to go to sleep, and I go to sleep. But it was good. The other piece of equipment that we had that I would say that we didn't like too much or didn't use, again, I didn't like or use or whatever. One was a holder for my iPhone. And I used it, I had it for 2 weeks in my pack, and it took up room, and I never used it, so I left it in a hiker box. Somebody got a really nice iPhone grabber. It could wrap it around trees and stuff like that. I just didn't use it. The other thing was I bought a bidet, a collapsible cup bidet, and I didn't use it as a bidet. It was terrible. But I had another bidet for the end of a water bottle, and that worked great. I used the collapsible one for an emergency night bathroom thing, and that worked very good for that, so I probably would keep that. I highly recommend a bidet, by the way, because I ended up not using as much toilet paper, and I just felt cleaner. And it's the first time I ever used it, and I'm sold on it. So definitely. The other thing about equipment would be the people ask, well, how did you take your videos? What did you do with that? What we did on videos was, I have an iPhone 11 Pro Max, and so does Scooter, and we both use the same resolution, same frame, and all the same settings. And we took pictures, and then Scooter, when we got to places with Wi-Fi, he would airdrop the pictures. And when you airdrop, it drops it in the same order as he takes them. And so they all were on the same day within minute mark and everything else. So we were able to made first our content very robust, and it made putting the videos together much, much, much easier. So that works for us. I was not ready to carry extra camera equipment, so it was perfect for us, and I think the videos speak for themselves. The iPhone Pro Max was good. Say that 13 times. iPhone 11 Pro Max. Anyway. Other things about equipment related was, it was always a struggle for me for food and water. I lost so much weight early on that I carried a little bit too much food towards in the hike, and then on water, I always carry extra water because I have experienced heat issues in the past, not hiking, but running. So I carried a little bit more water than I probably needed to, but we tailored that down. I didn't lose as much weight towards the end of the hike, so obviously I had the food dialed in, and it was good. So those are my gear comments. Then it kind of flows into, what are your favorite recollections of the Colorado Trail? That question came up, and that's easy. That's one of the easiest questions, because my favorite, beyond a shadow of a doubt, recollection of the Colorado Trail is hiking with my friend, hiking with Scooter. It's nothing better than experiencing a hike, preparing for a hike and experiencing a hike with your best friend. I can only imagine what it's like to do it with your spouse or your significant other, because my wife doesn't hike. So, but doing it with Scott was tremendous, and experiencing it together there's never going to be anything that will replace that. That's number one. The other thing is number two is the community of the Colorado Trail. I was just blown away about how the hiker community includes the trail angels and just the people in the towns and stuff like that. Just the community we experienced, and the generosity and that we experienced was exceptional. I will actually, everything in the future as far as community will be compared to the Colorado Trail. I understand that it's like that on the AT, on the Appalachian Trail. Well, I got a taste of it, and I can see why it's so appealing to people who hike the AT now. And just the genuine interest that young people showed in us as hikers. We were the older, up in the upper tier of age, but we'd stop and they'd engage with us and ask questions, and they were tremendous athletes, and it was just a very neat time to be able to do that, and that's my second greatest memory. The third thing is the obvious. I mean, it's the obvious is it's Colorado, and if you saw the videos, and oh my gosh, the scenery was just really breathtaking. I say breathtaking, exceptional. I don't have words to describe it. I mean, and the pictures are inadequate. To be in that and see that is in the moment. Sometimes create an emotional reaction that was hard to even. And you're having these all during the day. Okay, so. Colorado, my gosh, guys, if you ever get a chance to hike, section hike, through hike, whatever, Colorado, absolutely get out and do it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. And so that would be the third thing, and that's my fondest memories. And which, everybody says, okay, well, those are three great things. What's the things that you didn't like? And that's also easy. I can easily say that the most difficult and hardest thing for me was during the hike, my daughter and son-in-law both got COVID. And my grandchildren, they also got sick. Now, we don't know if they had COVID or not, because they don't test 2- and 4-year-olds for COVID. But I was on the hike, and they were sick, and and then on top of that, I had friends of mine that got COVID. I already told you about that, and they were in the hospital, and so that played with my mind. And just thinking, you think, here I'm out here on this trail doing this thing, having fun, and my family is. My wife is having to go through trying to help and support the kids during this time, and that just plays with your mind. That's the thing that I dislike the most, and it affected. It didn't affect me too much. I was able especially once the kids got better, I was able to get past it. Or hearing that they're better, it was okay. But and there's the normal emotional up and downs of hiking. Poor Scooter suffered from that some days. I'm more of a I would say more of a emotional type person. So not extremely. I'm just saying I'm more so than some men or guys. And but Scooter, he's just awesome. He was able to counsel me through it. So we didn't have any difficulties at all. But I mean, we're such long-term friends. We got along great the whole time. So that's the hardest thing, was that, no doubt. Which is, kind of flows into, did you ever get out of your comfort zone when you're in the hiking? Oh my gosh, of course I did. If I was going to, first thing is, there's two things I got out of my comfort zone that were concerns of mine going into Colorado that ended up being nothing. And probably a lot of people would question it. The first one that I say is, here in Florida, we were kicking around legalizing marijuana. It's not likely because we have a very conservative government here in Florida. But one of the first things people in Florida say about Colorado, oh, they've got legalized marijuana. You're going to go on the trail and everybody's going to be a bunch of stoners and you're going to have to be around pot. No, I don't know. Well, okay, first off, let me say this. That was absolutely not the case. In Colorado, I met the fittest people I've ever met. That they are so health conscious in Colorado. I think that's probably one thing that drives marijuana use, is yes or no on the fitness side. But the other thing is that I brought this up with a couple people, and their feedback is that, well, it's like this: you either smoke pot or you don't. And the ones that, and if you do, most people are pretty polite about their pot smoking. They also, there's laws that regulate it. And so I honestly, I never smelled pot. Well, I can't. Okay, I smell pot more in Florida than I did in a week in Florida than I did the whole time I was in Colorado. So I'm not saying there was no smoking, but it was nothing. It was zero. It was zilch. It was a non-entity. So don't let that keep you from hiking in Colorado. Number two, that I was really uncomfortable with going into, because I'm so prideful and I hadn't done it in so long, was hitchhiking. I said to myself, I figured, I'm not going to hitchhike. I can get my own ride. I can pay for my own ride. Well, we ended up hitchhiking, and those hitchhikes, first off, it was no big deal, number one. And number two, the people we hitchhiked with were some of the best ride experiences we had. So it was amazing. I got over my fear and not fear, or my intrepidation, my pride, and hitchhiked. And it was, once you do it one time, it's no problem sticking your thumb out here forward. So trust me, if I'm on the road and I can recognize a hiker, if you have hiking sticks and a pack and I can tell you're a hiker, I'm going to stop and give you a ride, buddy. So thank you to all those people that gave us rides, and I'm so happy that I got over my pride and hitchhiked. So that was a unique thing. So those two things were definitely great experiences for me. The last thing that people ask that's a good question, a common question, is what's next? And what's next for me? Obviously, right in January 9th is the Disney Marathon, and I'm training hard for that. Hiking training and marathon training are just so different, and I'm training very hard for that. And I'll probably do some more races after that. So, and then as far as hiking next year, I will probably do the Foothills Trail, which is in South Carolina. It's in, I want to say, western South Carolina. It's about 76 miles. And I may do the Lake to Ocean Trail here in Florida. Is from Okeechobee to the Atlantic Ocean. Those two trails next year. So that's what's ahead for me. Well, the question is, will Scooter do those trails? Will he hike with me? I don't know. Scooter, if he can, he will. If he wants to, he will. Him and I, we kind of always operated that way. Although all the hikes we've done, pretty much have been with Scooter, but I don't. It's one of those things. We don't commit to each other unless we can, so that's fine. The other thing I would say is that will I be doing longer trails? I tend to say that because of my experience on Colorado, which was really the purpose of us hiking the 486 miles, we wanted to kind of get a feel for what it would be like to be gone for some time from our families and logistically and all that. What I came out of that is it's unlikely that, I'm not saying never, but it's unlikely that I would do a through hike of the distance of the Appalachian Trail because it takes 6 months. And for me to do it, take me 6 months. And I'm not up for being away from my family for 6 months. My first career, I spent most of my time away from my family, and I decided once I retired from my first career that I wasn't going to do that again. And we were on the Colorado Trail. I missed birthdays. I had the time with the kids having COVID. And just convinced me that now doesn't mean I'm not going to hike the Appalachian Trail or longer trails. It just means that I probably won't do a through hike of that magnitude. But I don't ever say never. One of my mantras is that. So anyway, so that's what's ahead. Last thing is I just want to spend some time thanking the Colorado Trail Association, the maintainers. Oh my God, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. You guys, the trail was just unbelievably maintained. Yeah, there's a couple of sketchy spots, but overall it was just unbelievably maintained, and you do a wonderful job. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you, and I know there's a lot of people out there, unspoken people, that appreciate what you do. And the time and the effort that you and the risk that you take in maintaining that trail. So just thank you so much. The other thing I want to say is thank you to those that have watched my videos. Again, our videos, they're not my videos, and commenting. Thank you so much for that. It's been an inspiration, and it's been just surprising. And last piece of advice is if you're thinking about hiking the Colorado Trail or any trail, go out and do it. Start with overnight hikes. Get your equipment together and go hike. That's the best way to learn how to hike, is to do it. If you don't sit, get information, but go out and hike. If we can do it, if Scooter and I can do it, you can do it. So I encourage you just to get out there and do it, and just enjoy hiking. So till next time I see you guys, happy trails and happy hiking. Thanks for watching.